Jen, talk.
I've been flowing the 1NC on the case.
Okay.
So, here's the timer. Ready? Okay. Unproductivity is key to breaking down the debate space and thus stopping the productivity for the state. The 1NC is a refusal to be productive for white society and debate. Perfecting slavery, Farley 04. Slavery is the rule of the law and slavery is death. When exactly does this perfection of slavery take place? The slave bows down before his master before it prays for legal relief, and when it prays for equal rights, and while it cultivates the field of law, hoping for an answer, only after emancipation and legal equality, only after rights can the slave perfect itself as a slave. Perfect itself as a slave. The law of slavery has not been forgotten by the law of segregation. The law of segregation has not been forgotten by the law of neo-segregation. The law regarding the gates of slavery, segregation, neo-segregation has not forgotten its origin, and it remembers its father and its grandfather before that. It knows that what the master serves. It knows what color to count. To wake from slavery is to see that everything must go. Very law room, every great house, every plantation, all of it, everything. Request for equality and freedom will always fail. Why? Because the fact of need itself means that the request will fail. The request for equality and freedom, for rights will fail, whether the request is granted or denied. The request is produced through injury. The mark is race, the mark is gender, the mark is class, the mark is all there is to the reality of those essences, race, gender, class, and so on. And there is said to precede existence. The mark is the system, property, and law follow the mark, and so it goes. The 1NC does this in multiple ways. As Latin states, you must do nothing until you hear from me. This is a critique of the romance or relationship between the affirmative and the negative, the way the 1NC takes power back from the structures of debate, i.e., the ability to speak first in life, the ability to choose the topic, the ability to prioritize things like legalization, medical, over the Black Friday. You can do nothing productive until you hear from us, and you never will. Lincoln impact. The affirmative policy proposal is nothing more than a contingent right. The app seeks liberation from a failed status quo, but this liberatory project only reinforces the cohesion of civil society and produces Black suffrage. The celebration of the experiential change produces ontological violence on the Black because it ignores the structural position of Blacks as slaves within society. Bulletin 7. The circulation of Blackness as a metaphor and image of the most politically violent progressive movements in history produces dreams of liberation which are more essential to more parasitic to life and more emphatic in their guarantee of Black suffering. Black slavery is foundational to modern humanism optics because freedom is the hub of humanists and infinite conceptual trajectories. They are finite in the sense that they are predicated on the idea of freedom from some contingent that can be named. The contingent writer can be freedom from patriarchy, economic exploitation, from heteronormativity, and so on. And allowing for the notion of freedom to take the ethical purity of its ontological status, one would lose one's human coordinates to become Black. The writers that one could place freedom would be hyperbolic, no less true, and ultimately annotated. Freedom from the world, humanity from before everyone. Gratuitous freedom has never been a trajectory of humanist thought, though which is why the infinite trajectories of freedom that emanate from the humanists, however, anything but infinite, for they have no lane to the flight. They have no line of flight leading to the slave. The alternative is to refuse to affirm. The alt is to vote nay. The alt is the unproductivity of the debate. The alt is the 1NC. Each and every affirmation only gives civil society more coherence, rejecting styles of reformism in favor of endless antagonism that reflects the positionality of Black. This is unproductivity. Bulletin 07. The Black American story does not generate categories of entitlement, sovereignty, and immigration. For the record, we are off the map. This places us in a structurally impossible position that is outside the articulation of hegemony. Our wrestling works back in the grammar of hegemony and threatens it with its incoherence. Decolonization, which sets out to change the order of the world, is obviously a program of complete disorder. So completely at the repository to complete disorder as the Black body. The Negro, a past without a heritage, a battle of gratuitous violence, and a program of complete disorder for true revolutionary movement. Black liberation makes radicalism more dangerous to the United States because this condition possibly functions as a complete disorder. One must embrace its incoherence. The positionality of the Black subject gestures towards the disfiguration of civil society and its Black specter waiting in the wings, an endless antagonism that cannot be satisfied via reform or reparation, but that must nonetheless be pursued to the death. The 1NC's unproduction is a direct attack on the clouded memory of the scientific field that's constantly used the use of Black body information about the 1NC rips Black bodies out of private prisons that generate money off these Black and brown bodies that are put in there through marijuana legalization. It rips the Black bodies out of those testing rooms that test them for syphilis. It rips cells from the modern progressions in medicine. Researchers recruit recruited poor and uneducated black subjects and watched them die slowly, painful death, preventable death. Exclude 10. The Tuskegee syphilis study started in the 30s when the U.S. Department of Health researchers decided to study how syphilis killed from infection to death. They recruited hundreds of African American men with syphilis and watched them die even after they realized penicillin could cure them. The research chose black subjects because they, like many whites at the time, believed black people were notoriously a syphilis-soaked race. The public didn't learn about the Tuskegee study until the 70s after hundreds of men enrolled in it and had already died. Doctors were doing research on Mississippi appendectomies, unnecessary hysterectomies, on black women to stop them from reproducing and to give young doctors a chance to practice the procedure. Lack of funding for research into sickle cell anemia, a disease that affects blacks almost exclusively. So, onto the case. There are a bunch of links on the case that you're going to go for, and that's one. The dream that Gladys Knight talks about is why people would tear the seams off dreams. I do not know. That is directly talking about how there's a dream in the black market that says that we can make money, we can be businessmen, and in their Compton 14 card, they are trying to quote make them part of the American workforce and create that belonging to bring them into the state. And also, that's one link. Their use of legalization is another link, and it ignores the fact that they actually do not do anything. So coming out of cross-sex, when they say that they don't suffer gratuitous violence and that the state could kill for any reason, and marijuana isn't the only reason why they should kill, that means that they have no solvency, they don't do anything, and also at the point in time when they don't even and they don't do anything for black bodies. So at the point in time when they don't, they just say that they're going to change everything up. They don't solve for the progression that was the slavery to the Jim Crow to the prison industrial complex and where we are now. So the question really becomes, what's next? The alternative is saying the prison industrial complex is worse than slavery in some aspects, so we don't want to know what's next. So we don't want to be productive for civil society. We don't want to be those testing bodies that made medicine better. We don't want to be the bodies that funded those privatized prisons. We don't want to be their good American businessman. We don't want to be legitimate. And if they truly believe that they shouldn't be legitimate, then they should not stick the state's nose in it. Next, we say make loud my memory. That's the Henry Lax card. When they talk about, they literally, what? No, I know, I'm just saying that, make loud my memory. We're making this memory of law. Like, listen, you use your laws to change things from slavery to Jim Crow to prison industrial complex, and it didn't do anything, just created more and more structures. So don't cloud my memory and tell me that your laws are going to do anything, because they're not. It's just going to make it worse and that's the Farley evidence that says it's the perfection of slavery, and saying that we don't even need chains anymore to see it because people will follow the laws and that these businessmen will become better laws. The other link is that they actually do something, and the 2AC is a good example of that, because we literally said do nothing until you hear from me, and you never will. So the unproductivity that comes from the 2AC and from the exertion of the 1AC, where they did something until they heard from us and we never will, means that we have made this debate unproductive. We have done this is a framing issue for the debate, because the 1NC is saying, and the negative position is that we need to be unproductive. They also say that coming out of the 2AC, that control is always sought, and this clearly means that they will continue to recreate control. They will continue to control, especially since they are allowing the state, and thus they coming out of the process, you should realize that if the black market is the only ethical choice, then they should probably do nothing until they hear from them, and they never will. And them trying to legalize and make them legitimate is only going to create more problems and just be worse. The only real thing that you should do is be unproductive, and that flows neg for the state. You're unproductive for the state and unproductive for debate. And also another link is their faith in the debate and him saying that it's fun to find ways to survive. Cross-outs?
So, first.
Oh, okay. When you start talking about the case and not solving for gratuitous violence specifically, is that just to say that if we can't solve gratuitous violence, then there's no point to?
What do you define as gratuitous violence?
So this is the sentence I don't.
Like, gratuitous violence is violence for no reason. So, like, at the point in time when nothing is a reason, then everything becomes a reason. That's why Dunn saw a gun in Jordan Davis's hand, even though he didn't have a gun, because he was black.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's why you don't see like, you know, like Tanisha Anderson's case on the news,
Okay.
because she was black.
So how would anyone go to the state and say, you're not, like, you need to stop yourself from conducting gratuitous violence?
Excuse me?
Like, if the state,
We need
produces
to be
gratuitous violence.
unproductive for the state, because the state is the embodiment of anti-blackness.
Yeah.
Like, the Constitution
Sure.
was built by white men with power, for white men with power, which is probably why, like, Hispanic women get paid 60 cents to the dollar? No,
Alright.
50 cents to the dollar, black women 70, 60 cents, white women 70. Though if you
Are you
want to
saying
get
that's
close to the white
directly
men, then you
because
need
of
to,
the topics?
what?
So, no, more of just, how, is it about the state needing to do nothing? Like, how does the state stop conducting gratuitous violence? What is the way to make
You
it so
need
that
to,
gratuitous violence doesn't exist?
Like,
See, that's the problem.
yeah, like,
Okay.
you can't, the state is the embodiment
Yeah.
of that violence. You can't
Exactly.
use the state or ask the state, like, if there's no reason for the state to stop gratuitous violence, okay?
No, there
The
is.
private prisons is one example that I use. The way that they have privatized prisons means that the incentive is to get bodies into prison, not get bodies out, because you get more money when those prisons are filled.
Okay,
Okay, like,
So-
and even like places where they use prison labor, like,
okay,
there's no reason.
so why is negative state action something that makes it net worse?
Because.
Like, well, like, so your state action is to try to legitimize black markets.
No,
At the
it's not
same-
legitimizing, it's just saying they exist and there's no more persecution for conducting business within a black.
Yeah, but in the world where there is gratuitous violence, it means that they never even needed marijuana as a reason.
Well,
So it's like, you're just saying, oh yeah, now we're gonna make you legitimate, but you just make them
Look,
more,
other
and it's also
instances
the
of
Farley
gratuitous
argument,
violence, we don't
excuse
stop.
me?
If there are still instances where marijuana is an excuse, then how is it just not a net benefit?
And then, because it will recreate itself in something worse, that's the progression from
What's that?
slavery, what?
Okay.
I don't, like, it's just gonna recreate itself in something worse, so it's like, it's stuff is shitty now, we don't wanna see what y'all are gonna cook up with the state.